Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Finnig. I'm so thrilled you're here with me today because I'm super excited for today's guest. She's a dear friend of mine and fellow business owner, so we totally get each other and all the things, all the stressors and whatever of owning your own business. She is a certified aromatherapist with over 14 years of studies and experience in aromatherapy, essential oils, herbs, resins, all of it. She's the owner of Essential Wellbeings in Indianapolis and has a shop in her home and a website, which we'll link to, of course. But she just doesn't just dabble in essential oils. She is the real deal because she's certified with over 14 years of experience. All of this knowledge that she gives is incredible. And I'm excited to dive into that with her today. And what I love most about her is her passion for communing with nature in plant medicine. So I can't wait for her to share more with you. And for all of you who are driving right now, taking me along on your walk, cooking dinner, don't worry because there'll be links to everything we discussed today, including my friend Melissa's website, so you can order some of her wonderful blends at alyssafinnig.com/podcast. And before we dive in, this episode is sponsored by my upcoming 8-week Wild Wisdom Yoga Therapy program beginning in January. If you're ready to try a new holistic approach to address the root cause of your chronic pain, anxiety, depression, or habitual patterns that you're ready to let go, and finally get back to living the life you desire, you'll want to join me for this incredible program using yoga, pranayama, meditation, and chakra balancing to get to your root issues. Go to alyssafinnig.com/online program to learn more. I won't make you wait any longer, so let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Well, thank you, Melissa, for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it. And Melissa is an aromatherapist, and I always want to know, and so do our listeners, a little bit about your background and what got you interested in aromatherapy, whatever you want to share that kind of led you up to getting into all of these different practices.
I grew up in northern Indiana in a log cabin my dad built. We had about 5 acres at the time, but we were surrounded by nature all around us. So as a child, I would get lost in the woods, sniffing on the chives and whatever aromatic plants grew naturally there. And then once I moved to college, I was kind of disconnected from that. And then after graduating from college, we moved to Minnesota, and I kind of reestablished my roots in the wilderness again, and lived in Minneapolis. Walked into a cool little herb shop downtown, and stumbled across my first essential oil, and that essential oil was rosemary. I still have the bottle, and that was back in 98. So that really started my journey into aromatherapy, more as an aromatic, just a fragrance in the house per se. When my second child was born in 2002 is when I started doing more the medicinal side of the essential oils and started my business.
And what happened when your second child,
So when he was born, they said he had an ear infection, and we put him on an antibiotic. He was allergic. Within a day, he responded negatively. And then after the third attempt of doing this, I realized that that was not going to work for him. And I delved into how the essential oils could be used for the body, to complement the body. So I made my very first blend for ear infections, and the child's been on an antibiotic once, and he's 16 years old, and that was for strep throat. So he has been raised, and a lot of my blends have come from my family, having to make something for them or for myself, and that really is how I grew. Starting in 2002, more the holistic side of the essential oils, not just the aromatic pleasantries of it.
Well, and that's why I love you. Like, I always learn so much from you, and really like the science behind it and everything, and the power of essential oils, because there's, especially owning a yoga studio, I always have to tell my teachers, you can use essential oils, but like everybody can have different reactions and things like that. So before getting into any of that, but what led you into becoming an aromatherapist? Tell me about your training, your background, your experience, and things like that.
Well, I was working in finance. I was a real estate underwriter. And again, after my son was born, that 6 months of working with him in aromatherapy, it just opened up. I I don't know. I don't know if it's divinely inspired or whatever you have it. I was awakened to a different reality. It wasn't just numbers for me or just science for me. It was this trusting in a product, in an essential oil that's existed to help my family. And I just remember coming home and looking at my husband and saying, I'm working part time and I feel like I'm slowly dying because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that gift was the healing arts in a sense. I was just a baby starting. And then not long after that, I went to New York and took a 1 week intensive with a well-known aromatherapist. Did my certification through him, studied with Jeannie Rose. She's an herbalist aromatherapist. And at that time, there weren't a lot of books. So it was mostly internet searching and just self-teaching myself. Whereas now there's a lot of schools that you can, online educations and things like that. But I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, of course you did. Yes, silly. But the thing I always, and you share too, but I know you're very modest about it, is that aromatherapy there's a whole science behind it. And so people will dabble in it, but you are experienced, you have done the trainings, you continue the education. And when I go to your classes, because Melissa offers classes, and we'll always link to her website and her classes and Facebook page on the show notes, but it's like your knowledge is higher than anyone I've ever met. And of course, I haven't studied with master aromatherapists or anything like that, but you frame it differently, and because of the science background and everything, like you share things, and I'm not even sure how to explain it, but that's why I wanted you on the show. Plus, of course, I love talking with you because we're both business minded and understand what it's like to be woman-owned business, and just having your business in general and operating. But the fact that aromatherapy is not something to be taken lightly, like there are reasons why it's effective. And so maybe talk about that, just aromatherapy in general for our audience, because some of our audience may have been exposed to it, maybe not, and so just kind of share as if you're talking to someone who's never experienced it before.
Okay. Well, when I first started, there wasn't a lot of science to the understanding of how they worked. And through the years and after teaching my classes, I felt like the missing link. People take advantage of this. They don't really respect the medicine that the plant is making, that our body understands. So a lot of people want to understand it scientifically, and that is perfectly fine. But you don't have to have that knowledge. Your body already does. There's an intelligence within the plant that makes these chemical components that are released into the environment to ward off, infection, to communicate with other plants, to bring in pollinators, to help, to bring in nutrients. And so when you step back and you ask yourself, well, where is this essential oil coming from? Why is it being produced in the plant? Oftentimes that matches what we need. So when you have eucalyptus, this essential oil it's not really an essential oil within the plant. They're just chemical components. When it's used in eucalyptus, it's for respiration, for the breathing aspect of the plant, or as an antimicrobial for the plant. Well, eucalyptus is the best known for our respiratory system. That is why we do inhalation of it. It helps with decongesting. Science now has proven that it helps stop viral replication on a cellular level. So when you're doing inhalation of it and it's coating that mucous membrane of the nose, it's not just there to smell good, it's there to also enhance our body's immune response to fighting off these things. And it helps open up the lungs, the alveoli where gas exchange takes place. So, I mean, you can get very detailed into why it works, or you can just know that this is what the plant's using it for. And my body, whether my brain knows it or not, my body understands what that chemical component is supposed to be doing when it comes into contact with it.
Well, and I think that's important because, I like that science backs things up.
Yeah.
But it is not the only thing, because these are things that have happened, indigenous cultures have worked with plants for medicinal healing, whether essential oils or herbal, either one, which I know you work with both, because it's all encompassing.
Yeah, it's the aromatics.
Exactly.
It's not the essential oil necessarily. It was the resins. It was the herbs. And now we have the luxury of the most potent in essential oil. So you don't need a lot of it when you take it back to smudging with sage. You don't need that much sage if you're using it in essential oil. It needs to be less.
Well, let's talk about that for our audience, because everyone's going to come from different places. They may not even understand the difference between resins, essential oils, the herbal component, all of that. So would you mind sharing just a little bit about the differences and kind of in the plant medicine world?
So like what a resin is?
Yeah.
So traditionally resins, a resin, we all kind of know what pine resin is. When we get a Christmas tree, it's that sticky sap that's on our fingers. It turns into a hard resin. And traditionally speaking, from Catholicism, frankincense and myrrh are what they do is on a charcoal, it melts and then it releases smoke. So that clears the energy. So when you think it takes a lot of resin to produce an essential oil. So when people are just diffusing 10 drops of frankincense, that's a lot compared to if they were just burning, a gram of resin from frankincense. The herbal component back in the sick wards, rosemary used to be burned to help keep infection at bay, all those airborne pathogens that were causing sickness. Well, it takes a lot of rosemary plant matter to get a drop of rosemary.
Essential oil.
And then peppermint, it takes like 25 cups of peppermint tea to equate to 1 drop of peppermint essential oil. So I always tell people, if you love resins or you love the herbal side of things and teas, do that, because that is very powerful also. And if you need something stronger, that's where the essential oils will come into play. Like don't skip past, the historical use of these things and just jump into essential oils, because you're kind of missing the energetics of it.
Sure. And I think it's important for people to know that, because we're so, as a society, we're so removed from the earth. And one of the reasons I created this podcast is to help us get connected back to our body, because our body naturally will heal itself. And with the aid of plant medicinals or, the aid of yoga or whatnot. But I also want to teach people to reconnect with the earth. I think it's very important. It's important to me, and that's, we both talked about, we love working with things that we love. Yeah. And we just want to share that.
Yes.
You make blends that have worked for you and that you personally like, and that's what you share. And the same thing with, I invite people here who I love and, or fascinate me in some way and I want to learn more. But also that reconnecting with the body, reconnecting with Mother Nature, with the earth, is so important to me that I want to share that with everyone.
Yes.
So even what may seem simple of the difference between resins and herbs and essential oils, a lot of people don't know that because we're so disconnected as a society. So it's very important for people to learn that, because then they will be more conscious when using essential
Yeah.
oils. Now, I had a teacher who is just lovely, but she came in with a bottle of pure frankincense and asked if she could use it in class. And I said, well, if it's diluted, because you don't know the reaction of certain people. And she put it all over her face. And I was like, and she was fine. But like that much frankincense essential oil. And I know you've talked to me about, when it's expired and, the kind of all of those things. So maybe explain that because I'm not doing a great job about it. But just of knowing like why it's important to know where your essential oils come from, the therapeutic grade. You put expiration dates on all of your products. Yeah, I know you teach this in your 101 class. So if for everyone out there, we can only get so much done in, 30, 45 minutes on a podcast. If you're in Indianapolis area or drivable, Melissa hosts classes. And so you can always find out more with Melissa with her classes. And we'll put links on the show notes. But tell just a little synopsis of, I don't know, kind of like summarize some of those things that I know you've taught me of being aware of essential oil use.
Okay. So frankincense is slowly leaving the planet because it's over harvested. I have my own line of essential oils that are sourced from frankincense, maybe from a designated place that's a renewable source that's not being over harvested, so it is gone. So when you have someone who feels the need to wipe frankincense all over their face, at this point in my life, I'm teaching people how kind of disrespectful that is, because you don't need that much. You could use a drop in an ounce bottle and get the same effect, because frankincense is a sacred oil. It is meant to be appreciated on a vibrational level. I don't use it physically. It's not, unless I'm dealing with something like a case by case situation where, yes, I will use it topically. Just be mindful of what these essential oils are for. And I think the industry, not my industry, but the industry out there is about the more you use it, the better you'll be. And I don't agree with that, because I have found that the less you use, the better you'll be, because your body wants to be in this state of homeostasis, and you don't need a lot. Because what I try to explain to people, an essential oil like bergamot, and inhaling that for 20 minutes is amazing for anxiety and stress, but after that it becomes a biological stressor on the body because it's too much. You've reached this amount that now, just like any other substance, there's a great balance, and once you exceed that balance, it's no longer good for you. So that's how essential oils are. And yes, I put use by dates on all my products, because these are living substances that after a while are not going to work as effectively. There's chemical components such as limonene in your citruses, or limonene, some people say, that oxidizes. And once it interacts with oxygen to a certain degree, more of it becomes an irritant to your skin. And so when people are drinking this, they don't realize that they're actually destroying the entire lining of the digestive system. And no doctor is going to say, oh, it's because you were drinking expired lemon in your water. They're not trained to teach you that. And peppermint has an addictive component to it that the liver can become toxic over years of use, that is not healthy for the body. So again, it's just, you have to be mindful of what you're doing. You don't take an antibiotic every day as a preventative. You take an antibiotic because you need to take an antibiotic. And that is really how the aromatherapy should be used. Stop using them every day unless you need to, or else your body is going to become used to it and it's not going to work the way you need it to when the time is when you need it to
Yeah,
work.
just like you can become immune to certain antibiotics
Yeah,
and things.
you
Or
can become
resistant.
allergic. I
Yeah.
have an aromatherapist friend who is allergic to sandalwood because she would use it undiluted, and then she had some sort of crisis happen in her life, and she used it as she always did, and her body reacted negatively, and now she can't use it. It happens to massage therapists with lavender, where they've used it on their hands over and over and over for years, and then one day their body's like, there's something in this lavender that we now cannot handle, and you cannot use lavender, smell it, anything for the rest of your life.
Wow. It's just like with anything, with food and things like that. If we're eating the same things over and over, our body starts to go, okay, enough. It's the same thing with essential oils, and essential oils are so powerful. And I'm glad I kind of got you into that, like, passionate moment.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to pull that out of you. And so, but it's important for everyone to know. Elaborate a little bit more on the, because I know there's lots of information out there about using some essential oils for, drinking in the morning, which we should just be using fresh lime or lemon juice anyway, not essential oils. But also, whatever else, because I know there's a lot. And we're, not trying to bash anybody or anything like that, but I think it's important to know for people, this is all about protecting your body and getting in tune with your body. And that's what I'm passionate about, and you. So talk a little bit more about drinking and adding this just a little bit, and then we'll go into something else.
So it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
That's what I took from you.
There's a book out there that, in the food and flavoring industry, that has a allowable percentage of these aromatic components. It's not even the full peppermint. It might just be menthol that they're using, that is considered deemed safe for 50% of the population. And that has been abused.
Yeah.
So I make elderberry syrup. I use some of my essential oils in it, but when I'm using those essential oils in there, I'm dosing it to the appropriate drop per dose. So if you're doing a tablespoon of your elderberry syrup, there might be a drop total of combined essential oils that I'm using.
Yeah.
In a syrup of honey, which dilutes it so that your water and oil don't mix. Everyone should know this. Right? Fat soluble components don't mix with water. So it doesn't work. So when you're throwing peppermint into your water, what's happening is you're drinking it, and that peppermint essential oil is coating the lining of your body. The water is not diluting it for you at all. So it's never even getting to the part of the body where it probably needed to go in the first place. It should be encapsulated in a carrier oil and done that way, because a lot of people want it to get to the intestines. Well, it's not going to get there. It's coating the throat and the esophagus.
That totally makes sense.
Right. So again, does common sense stop doing it?
That makes sense.
I mean, you can put it in honey, and then maybe, but it's a drop. I'm not talking 10 drops 5 times a day.
So this reminds me of a little story I'll share. When I was 16, I boxed in the Indiana Golden Gloves. And my trainer would, like when you rest in the corner of the ring or whatever, would give me some water with a drop of peppermint essential oil, supposedly to keep me hydrated for whatever. I don't know, but it was a thing. And it just, that whole story just reminded me, that's really the only time I've ever drank it. And because I've been advised by you to not drink essential oils. So that's our disclaimer out there. Don't drink essential oils. Or
at least know what you're doing. I mean, use it in honey. I do internal on occasion, but it's in honey. And honey it's a solvent to the essential oils. So you're not wasting it in your mouth and in your esophagus, where it's going to attract itself to.
Why would you use it internally? Like, give an example.
So
besides the elderberry syrup.
I used to have hay fever. I don't so much anymore, but typically when hay fever just is beginning, my immune system will take a day or two to realize that it doesn't have to be reacting negatively. So I may get what I consider a systemic hive. Like my whole body will break out into hives and itchy all over. I will do a drop of Roman chamomile
Mm-hmm.
in a teaspoon of honey, stir it up, and I literally swallow it.
Mm-hmm.
That I will do maybe a couple times a day. That's really the only thing that I use by itself.
When you have that acute hay fever hives
when
and
it's
things like
happening
that.
right then.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't drink it. If
Yeah.
someone has IBS, something in the digestive system, you're not going to drink it to get the relief. A suppository, that's made specifically for
Mm-hmm.
that ailment in a fatty substance like cocoa butter or something,
Mm-hmm.
will be inserted that way
Mm-hmm.
into the colon, because that's where it's needed at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
psychological issues going on, depression, anxiety, stress, the quickest route for these aromatic components is through the nose, the olfactory nervous system. You don't rub them on your feet
Mm-hmm.
and think that that's going to cause an effect in your brain. It doesn't. Okay.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And so my Sunday night yin yoga and yoga nidra meditation class has been very excited that I hesitated using essential oils for a while because people come in with allergies, and we know that's another issue, maybe with their liver
And typically
things
people
like that.
don't have allergies to essential oils because the proteins aren't there.
Sure.
Synthetic essential oils
Yes, exactly.
can cause the allergies.
Yep.
Unless they know for a fact that they are, allergic to something, it's not as common as you think. It's the synthetic versions that they will react to.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And so I had worried, about using some within my classes, just because I was also taught with my yoga mentors and stuff. They were highly sensitive, and so just kind of didn't use them. But we carry them at the studio. I use them personally. I use a lot of your products too, and but I started this probably a couple months ago, and I've had this class for over 4 years, and a lot of regulars for that long. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start using them, and they are so excited and they love it. But I use, the dilution. They're usually the blends.
Yes.
Either your chakra balancing blends or another local supplier, and her roller balls and remedies and things. So I use those, and my people just love it. It enhances the experience. But how I teach them is I rub it in their palm and have them just inhale and have them close one nostril, inhale, and close the other nostril, just like you taught me. So that and explain that exactly. I always say, so it's, because your left and right.
Well, the olfactory nervous system on either side of the nose is not created equally. So on one side, there might be more eucalyptol, which is in eucalyptus receptor sites. On the other side might be more linalool, which would be the lavender, softer, more floral tones. And this is just another way to get people in touch with what they're doing. That there is a difference even in your own body of the different essential oils and their components.
I knew you could explain that way more beautifully than I can. So let's talk. You have a line, and I don't know anybody else who has this, and maybe they do, but you have a line of handcrafted or blended chakra balancing essential oils. We carry them at my studio, and I use them with people, with my private clients, our teacher trainees, because we take them through the chakras in my classes, like I just mentioned. And so tell me a little bit about, because you have some background in energy therapy and even craniosacral. I didn't realize that. And so you've crafted these. Tell me about why, little explanation. Just go into whatever you want to share.
Well, so I didn't go into these blends on purpose. I had a shop in the beginning of when I started, and I just kept being pushed to do chakra blends. And at the time, I really didn't know much about chakra blends. And I specifically remember kind of just going fine to the universe or whomever it was. Obviously, it was the universe, but pushing me in this direction. So I spent, I don't even know, honestly, it wasn't even that long. It was just, I sat down. I was kind of guided to make these blends. Not to say I didn't have knowledge, but I can't say that it was different, just how I created them. And I felt very compelled to put stones in them. I have a passion for stones as much as I do everything else in nature. And I had my friend come and lay down on my table back in 2004. And I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And I balanced her chakras. And again, I was guided to do this. It's not like I was taught how to do it. And later on, I took the time to understand what was going on. And the essential oils have a vibration, just like every living thing. And a frequency. So what I discovered going back was that a lot of the essential oils that were chosen to go into these blends either were of the same color or the plant itself was the color of that chakra. The stones, they have the color of the chakra. And so I use those, and the word lately is adaptogens. You know, everyone likes to talk, and that's just using something to help our body find homeostasis. And so the chakra blends are kind of adaptogens to our energetic bodies. And each chakra has its own frequency, its own color, its own connection to an adrenal gland or to an endocrine gland. And so those, just by holding them, sometimes people can say they get an effect because that energy is not contained in a glass bottle. It expands just like our own auric field. And so you can use them, you can hold them, you can smell them, you can apply them topically to each point. You can use the sprays to spray above your aura, so it's falling down all the different layers of your energetic field. And they're just meant to bring forth what I've discovered over all these years now is it brings forth things that we've been holding on to. And it's not necessarily this lifetime, but it brings forth things that no longer serve us, that we need to release and let go of so that we can evolve as humans in a very subtle, gentle way.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, and I know a lot of people buy the entire sets, and so I use the root chakra blend in my morning meditations, especially during the fall, which is the time of letting go.
Yep.
But also it's a time that when we need grounding.
Yes.
And I use that, and I don't use it before pranayama, before opening all the passageways. I use it after my pranayama practice or breathing practice and before my meditation practice. And I really love it because it has frankincense and myrrh. The root chakra blend does. Okay. And so I just love the smell of it. And I read off.
It has myrrh, not frankincense.
I couldn't remember exactly what was in it.
Made me think for a second.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why we have brochures and things that remind us what we put in things. And so aromatherapy, plant medicine, all of that, because I know you do a lot because you have so many classes and you're always coming up with new ones and things like that. And you always have ideas just like me. That's why I enjoy being with you. So if someone wanted to get started in understanding more about aromatherapy or just aromatics in general, or how to use essential oils or even plant medicine in general at home like you did, what are some resources or some strategies that you might share with people?
If people are interested in essential oils, I always, they could come to my shop. They could go to your shop and find a blend that resonates, that excites them, and then go home and understand why. Start there. I started teaching again because people were coming to me. I have 20 essential oils in my cabinet. I don't know what to do with them. Pick one. Pick one that you love, that you're attracted to, and understand it completely. And then move on to the next one, which is why my classes only have 5 or 6 essential oils in them, because your brain can only handle so much information and you only have so much time in a day to work with them. And if you're not, going to work with frankincense ever, you don't need to ever own frankincense. So that's what I teach my students. If you take a basic 5 class and I don't see you for a year, good, because I hope you're learning all about those 5 essential oils. And then you're getting spun to go figure out the plant side of things. You know, you're harvesting your own peppermint and making tea and creating stuff for yourself, because that's where we grow, is just the experience. I can tell you everything I know about peppermint, but you may go find something that I don't know, and that's what holds you in that field.
Sure. What are your basic 5? Will you remind me and tell the audience?
Eucalyptus radiata, lavender, peppermint, rosemary. It's the cineol, so it's just a little better for respiratory, and tea tree.
Okay. And I went through that class. But those are so powerful.
Yes.
Those 5 in itself, so powerful and can do so much. And I've seen that rosemary tends to be in almost like tons of blends.
I love rosemary. It's a very protective essential oil. It's wonderful for respiratory. It's very similar in chemical components as eucalyptus. So people either like eucalyptus or rosemary. Rosemary was my first essential oil, so I just love her. Antimicrobial. It's very good for the mind. It helps with memory, not just remembering things, but like storing things in long-term memory in the hippocampus. There's a lot of research now out there to support that.
Okay.
So yeah, rosemary's wonderful.
Great.
Yes.
Any books or online resources that you know, because our audience is worldwide. So anything, and if you don't think of something now, tell me later.
Valerie
and we'll link to it.
Wormwood has a new book, actually, but her book was probably one of the first ones that I discovered at Half Price Books.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and it is very abused. It was, because what's wonderful about her is she teaches you about the essential oils, but she has a lot of formulas for just basic day-to-day things. So for someone who doesn't want to spend 20 years, you know, studying and paying money to know what I know, you can get that book and know that she is a safe person. You can trust her, and her blends are effective.
Okay, that's good. And we'll link to that in the show notes, because I think that's important. Even for me personally, sometimes I'm like, how do I work with this? Like I'm looking at my dog's paws in the morning, like, because she'll chew on them with anxiety while I'm gone. And she's a white dog, so it's completely obvious. And I'm just like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I have to take some time and research that. But there's so much out there that you don't know, and you need a trusted resource. So we'll definitely
I have a resource page on my website too, of people that I study with and whom I trust, because yes, there are a lot of I knows. Pinterest, stay away. I mean, yeah, you can if it's for simple pleasures of just smelling, but don't go there to treat.
Yeah. Because we know essential oils can burn the skin.
Yes.
If there's too much, or you're sensitive, or it's expired,
and don't buy your essential oils off Amazon.
Yes, that's
because
true.
There's nobody governing the purity of it. And even something as beautiful as frankincense, I had a customer who bought it, put it underneath the breast because she thought she had a tag or something, and it literally burnt the entire bottom of her breast and her chest, just 2 drops. Because what people forget is those 2 drops, they are lipid soluble, and they're not just going to be absorbed in that spot you drop them on. They are going to spread out across a large area of your skin. And she was burnt black the next morning.
And she ordered it offline.
Off of, yes.
Yeah. And that's with anything, you know, I had a friend say, oh, you could get your smudge sticks on Amazon, which I buy a lot of stuff. I'm not discounting Amazon. I buy a lot of stuff from there. But when it comes to things that we're using on our body, we have to make sure
our well-being.
Yes.
You have to be careful.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So buying them from a trusted source. That's why, you know, I buy my essential oils from you, because I know, and or recommendations for carrier oils, you know, because I do buy them from other places too.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll consult you, or I'll learn from you, or other things. But I know our audience, we're always bombarded with so many things. We want to learn how to do these more natural ways of healing, and we don't know where to start. So that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is to share all of these strategies with my audience.
And start with someone who already knows what they're doing.
Yes.
I feel like we have all this access to knowledge, but we really don't know what to do with it. And sometimes honor the people who have taken the time to become the experts. Not that I'm an expert at everything I know, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know your
start
stuff.
there.
Yeah.
And again, work one thing at a time so that you build yourself up to that, instead of, because it's overwhelming and you'll shut yourself down.
Exactly. So I appreciate sharing that. So we'll link to everything we discussed in the show notes, so our audience, so you know that, and then you can get started on using essential oils at home. And then if you're in the Indianapolis area, because our audience is worldwide, but if you're in the Indianapolis area, know that you can go to classes at Essential Wellbeings, which Melissa owns out in Lawrence area.
Yep.
Okay. She has a store within her house and everything, and we'll link to that. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Stop being afraid of using them, but learn how to use them appropriately.
We have to respect them. We have to respect everything.
Respect the growers and, the producers, and use them mindfully instead of just as if they were a fragrance, because they're more than that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And I love spending time with you. For everyone out there, if I have somebody who meets me in Indianapolis, I try to have breakfast before or lunch, just so I can spend more time with my guests. But some people call in and everything too. So it's really nice when I can be face to face with someone.
Thank you for having me.
And just a reminder, this episode is sponsored by my upcoming 8-week Wild Wisdom Yoga Therapy program beginning in January. If you're ready to try a new holistic approach to address the root cause of your chronic pain, anxiety, depression, or habitual patterns that you're ready to let go, and finally get back to living the life you desire, you'll want to join me for this incredible program using yoga, breathing exercises, meditation, and chakra balancing. Go to alyssafinnig.com/online program to learn more. And one last thing, are you subscribed to my podcast? If you're not, I encourage you to do so today, so you're the first to hear when the next one is live every Thursday. Take a few seconds, hit the subscribe button on your phone now, or go to alyssafinnig.com/podcast and make sure you get on the email list to get notified when a new episode is available. I cannot wait to see you again, same time, same place next week. Wild blessings.